So welcome to episode 10 of the Inside Real Estate Podcast. And today we have a special guest, Giselle Bartolo. Giselle, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Brian.
Absolutely. So Giselle is a client of ours. We've been shooting her properties for quite a while now. And we wanted to bring her on because she's kind of a rising star. It's actually been very interesting to watch you progress since we've met. And, but before we're going to get into all that. But before we do that, if you wouldn't mind just telling people a little bit about who you are and give us some background on yourself.
Sure. So thank you for the very kind intro there. I think we've been working together for maybe 6 years, almost 6 years. It's been a while because I've been in the business for 7 and I started working with you pretty shortly after. Yeah. So I got started full-time in 2017. I worked in a marketing capacity before that, doing graphic design, print materials, all of that. And then I worked at Berkshire Hathaway Rosemont for some time, and it was really great. Stayed there a long time, really got my feet wet, learned the ropes a bit. I grew up in the business a bit too. My mother's a real estate investor, so it was a little not totally unfamiliar. Yeah. And I always had an interest in that. That's why I have my own rental property now as well. But, I've just really loved helping people find homes, seeing how their lives could change based on, where they end up, what they ended up in, especially when it was more than they thought they could even imagine. Mm-hmm. And then last year I moved over to Compass on April Fool's Day. So that was a choice of date. But it's been a really great change. And I'm there with my teammate, Anita Lato, and we just really love the technology there. It's been a really great move.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you've kind of haven't stopped moving, I guess, since you started. So what was the switch for you to decide to get into the business?
Sure. So it kind of was always the goal. Weirdly, in 7th grade, I wrote a paper about it. We had to talk about what we wanted to do, and I wrote about real estate, and I don't think anybody else did. So I always knew I wanted to do something like this. In college, I had an internship that turned into like a part-time job doing property management and leasing down in Brewerytown, and I really liked it. I think people are surprised because I'm quite chatty that I'm actually highly introverted, but I found I loved working with people as long as I didn't have to go home and hang out with them even more. So I just really liked, getting to know the different people and getting them placed in their homes, things like that, and just wanted to take it further. Got my license while in college and then did a job short term to just, get some savings going. And once that was set, I just never looked back.
Let's start off light. What's the funniest or weirdest thing you've ever seen in the business?
Oh, God.
Haunted houses?
I mean, the weirdest was I had to deliver cremations once.
What?
Cremains.
Cremains.
That were left in a house. That's probably a little morbid, though.
Wow. That's that you don't deal with every day.
Probably should find a different one, but a client forgot that she had some. And she moved far away and she was older and the buyer was kind of afraid they were haunted. So that's when I added low-key hearse to my job description. So drove those from King of Prussia out to Exton, and they made their way to their rightful owner. That might not be a story we put on.
Oh, that might be a good one. Did you need a special license for that?
If I did, I don't have it, so don't tell.
All right. So shh. That is one of the weirder ones that I've heard.
That was a weird one. Mm-hmm.
That's funny. So since I've known you, you have, as you progress through your career.
I love my career.
I've seen you kind of like the properties you were dealing with when we first started working together to what you're doing now is like it's a huge upswing. You're dealing in much bigger and better stuff. So talk a little bit about your progression and how it's gone for you.
Sure. I'm pretty sure I know exactly which one you're talking about. That was Mayflower Square, these little condos, and the ones I was selling, they were in rough shape. They both needed new HVAC. I think one of them even broke during the transaction, which was quite bad. And these were like $100,000 condos that I was treating like the Taj Mahal. I went in there, I staged them. I took the decals off by hand, just took hours. There were a lot of personal touches left by the tenant, shall we say. Went in and did that and just meeting a bunch of people in there because it brought in both buyers for themselves as well as investors. I still get referrals from those people from those open houses. I've done, upwards of 30 deals, I think, just based on those 2 condos alone. Yeah. So just, I kind of try to treat every client like with the same high level of service, whether they're buying a teeny tiny condo or, a big estate home on the main line. And just, I found that that's led to referrals, which has led to different price points. I mean, just to give you an idea, I was showing a house a few days ago that was in the higher end of the main line, shall we say. And then this morning I'm showing a $200,000 condo, and you just never know who's going to turn into what. And, just everyone deserves the same level of service is how I've always seen it. Let's
go back to one of the things you said. You were staging these condos.
Yes.
So it was actually a pleasant surprise for me when I went in there, because I'm like, I had been in them before, and like I kind of knew what to expect. And I go in there and you had them all prettied up.
The orchid.
Yeah. But a lot of people don't do those little things. You didn't go crazy, but like you just definitely made the presentation a lot better than it was, which, definitely gets more out of the photos, and probably had, had pretty good success when unloading them. Do you have a staging background in any way, or is it just something like?
No. So I just happened to have some items. My mother was doing some flips at the time, and very generously allowed me to use her things. So I went into this storage unit she had. I got all those. And then it was a bit of a family affair. They volunteered to help me, my mother and my sister. So we were in this little condo, I think till like 11 p.m. the night before, just setting everything up. But, she has a very artful eye. I did a lot of art courses in my school previous background. So I think it just came together nicely.
I think that was the first time I met your mother a couple times.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
You've met her over the years. She's shown up and done some favors.
Your parents seem very proud of you.
Oh.
But that's, so what was it like having parents kind of around this?
Well, I mean, it never was a pressure thing. I mean, for the most part, my parents were always just like, do what you want to do, whatever makes you happy, all that. My dad was actually a dentist and actively discouraged me from going in that path, which is interesting. I find most kids growing up have the exact opposite. It's like, don't go into dentistry. You'll like hate it. It's stressful.
Oh, he discouraged you from dentistry.
But with real estate, he was much more open to that. My mother was too. I mean, I think I would have done what I wanted regardless, but it was nice to have the support. But it always made things feel a little less intimidating. Like when I went into a house, I felt like I knew more than your average bear, just because I'd seen a lot of fixer-uppers, shall we say, over the years. When I was a kid, I would go with them to showings. I always liked that. And it gave me confidence to buy my own investment property and advise people who were buying places that might need a bit more work on, hey, this is one that you could probably make nice. This is what's going to take to do that, or you need to run.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I showed one this morning. I have no hesitation telling someone to run. I think I tell people to run more than I tell them to walk.
Really?
Or not walk, to take it. Oh, yeah. I had a client who bought a townhome back in October, and his mother actually was saying, do you actually want him to buy a house? And I did. I just didn't want him to buy the wrong house. And because I just said no to so many places for him for reasons of, the HOA or the structure, or it had a moldy smell, or just things like that. Not like cosmetic, but just things that I thought could be bigger cans of worms than he might like. When I finally was saying, no, I think this is a good one, it was advice I think he felt he could trust, because it wasn't just me trying to get him a sale. It was trying to get him the right house. And that was actually what my parents' realtor who sold them their forever home did, who I still work with sometimes, Betsy Drennan. She talked them out of a lot of houses. So when she said, no, go for this one, it was the right one. And they always remember that she told them to walk away. So when they told her, she told them to go for it, they were like, okay, this is definitely it. We feel good about our choice. So I've tried to live by that too.
That's good. How do you think that that's benefited your career, having that like level of honesty? Because, you might find that some agents might be just more looking to push and get the paycheck. And that's not, I don't want to say that that's how real estate agents are in general, but there's always two ends of the stick, and you seem to be on the more transparent end.
I think it's helped build trust between me and my clients, and I think it's led to more business. I mean, I heard recently from a colleague who referred someone to an agent out of state that they kind of pushed someone into a deal that they didn't want to do, and now that deal is void and they're not going back to that person. And so you avoid that whole thing. But I think also on top of that, you add just the vote of confidence where they're sending you to their friends, their family, things like that, because they know that you led them right, and you'll do the same with the people who are important to them.
That's the way it should be, right?
I mean, hopefully it is for most people.
Yeah.
I try to.
No, and I think there's, when I see in the instances where I've seen you interact with the sellers, there does seem to be a good level of trust there. So I think that probably plays into it. What do you see in the market right now?
Sure. So if you're looking at the city proper, it is a little bit easier for the most part. I mean, I had clients who were looking out towards Conshohocken and Ardmore area and just, they were getting beat left, right, and center. And we looked at a beautiful newer construction in Roxborough, Manioc. They were the only offer in town, and they got it under asking with an inspection. They're over the moon and a VA loan. So out there, I've seen it get a little easier. In the suburbs, it kind of depends on where you are. If you're in the main line, it's still pretty wild is how I'll put it. But, I had a listing in King of Prussia, and it was where I would expect it to be. It's a little cooled off. It's still pretty intense, but I showed 3 recently out there that I think if they were listed in 2020 or even 2021, they would have gone in a heartbeat, even though they needed some work. But I have to check as of this morning, but last week they were still there, which was surprising. So I think there's a little bit of a cooling in some places, but not all.
Yeah, and so you're basically in the more desirable, the most desirable places, is really not cooling off too much.
Yeah, but I won't knock KOP. I'm from there.
No, KOP's nice. I was actually just there this weekend for a shoot. Are you working with more buyers or sellers, or a mix?
It's a healthy mix at this point, which is good.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely helps, especially when things are a little crazy. What would you say are some of your biggest strengths as an agent?
Sure. I mean, I think just honesty, almost to a fault, just because, as I said, I'll talk people out of properties more than I'll talk them into them. I really don't like to talk anyone into it at all unless it's what I call Tinder syndrome, where I keep showing them the same house again and again and again. And they keep saying, oh, but what if something else better is out there? What if something else better is out there? And,
you could do that forever.
You could do that forever.
Yeah.
So that's the only time where I'll really start talking someone into it and just kind of try to get to the bottom of, well, I've shown you this 3,000 square foot home built in 2006. That's a Center Hall Colonial about 7 times. And you said no to it, but you keep coming back to it and telling me it's your dream home. Either you need to pick one of these houses, or I don't think it's actually your dream home. So
yeah. So you've shown people how, like, a single house that many times?
Oh, no. Just the same type of house. I had some clients.
Okay,
they're in a lovely home now, but I was showing them the same house layout and style, and even the same builder, just repeatedly, and just, nope, not this one. Nope, not this one. And, ultimately they did land in that exact house, but we had to do a little digging as to, well, why not this one? We showed another one in this street, and we keep coming back to this, but do you just not like this style of house? So we went back, we looked at some townhomes just to make sure that wasn't their option. And I think once they saw other things that were available, they felt more secure in their decision. That's why I kind of like with buyers, my lender and I, we typically do this thing called like a neighborhood tour, where we start off, we have a first meeting, go through just kind of an overview. Here's what you can afford. Here's what you qualify for. What are you thinking in terms of budget? Then we go out, we look at some places, we kind of say pressure's off. We're just going to look at them. We're not going to do an offer today. We still want to do some more, back end work, get your finances in order. But this way the pressure's off. You can kind of see what you like, what you don't. And that's what I was doing this morning, actually. So gets people an idea of, I thought I really liked being in Havertown. It turns out I'm more of a Broomall person, something like that. Or, I thought I definitely needed a single family, and I'm actually open to a townhome if it's one of the wider ones rather than the totally vertical. That actually happened recently. So that's been kind of helpful just in terms of people, they get their feet wet a bit more. They're a little less chaotic because by the time they're feeling like they're fully ready to go, they've already seen some options out there. We've circled back with the lender, looked at, the finances a bit more. Like, hey, if you went for this house, how much would it cost? What would the monthly payment look like? And I feel like that's unique because they're not seeing the spread for finances for the first time as they're in the middle of the chaos of getting their paperwork together for an offer. They've actually already seen it. They've done their homework, so they can be the calm, cool, and collected buyer when the time comes for the one they love.
So you have some pretty, that's like one of your systems you have in place when dealing with buyers. Mm-hmm. Just doing that. How did you start with that? Or is that something that you ran into, you were finding you were running into issues with people and just kind of the sequence of events, and then you started implementing what you're doing now?
Sure. I mean, that was definitely a post-2020 change. I started working with a different lender, and we just really found a good system that worked for us, because I find most lenders, first time you hear from them is when you're putting in the offer. They send you a pre-approval. You're kind of like, hello. I've never spoken to you before and I'm the agent. We have no connection. Whereas the lender I often work with, we're a real team. We have a little messaging system. We go back and forth. So by the time he's talking to a client, he already has the background on them, or if they're from him to me, vice versa. And we can kind of just tag team, figure out ways to make the situation the best for them that we can.
Yeah, I think having the like lender partners as opposed to just a lender that you come across in deals probably makes a big difference. I know when I had my license, I had 3 that I worked with, but they were like 3 guys that did, like, one was the guy that when the other ones either didn't want to do it or couldn't do it, he could get that done. This was like when I first started it. And then you had other people that were just kind of, they had their little go-to things that I would go to them for, but it made my life easy. So you would say it's important, like having relationships with lenders is a good thing.
Oh yeah, for sure. And just for, for my clients, I'd say it's really, and potential clients, I'd say it's really important to think about the lender you're working with. I mean, people in our area often have a pre-approval from, say, like one of those quick and easy online ones. I've seen those deals fall apart oftentimes. Someone wasn't actually qualified for what they thought they were. They, I don't want to name names of these online lenders necessarily.
No, it's fine.
But, local lenders, I mean, just make a big difference. And when a listing agent asks you, or you as a listing agent asks, like, is this a lender you've worked with before? It can be really reassuring and make a big difference. Be like, yep, this is one I've done a billion times. I know that they can get it done. Versus, oh no, I just got them today. And I've done ones where I just got them that day and it closes perfectly fine. But I feel more confident for my buyers that they're making a decision that they're educated behind when we've had these kinds of meetings.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you're doing pretty well with those relationships. What are some ways that you work with lenders outside of? Do you have, like, with these partnerships that you have? Like, I know from people I deal with that they have these promoting together relationships. Do you do anything like that? And
Sure. I had a second lender who sadly just left the industry, and we used to do a lot of those kinds of things. We did like first time home buyer. I wouldn't call them seminars because we found those to sound a little bit boring, but we did happy hours and they were really fun. And I think people enjoyed those. It was just much more casual, and who doesn't want free food and drinks? Yeah.
Now, were you getting people to actually sign paperwork at these things? People want to know.
I mean, I got them to do follow-ups. No, I would never want to coerce someone. Come on.
That's one way to do it.
It was just free tacos. It was great.
Yeah. No, that's a great idea. What are some ways that agents can go about finding and creating these relationships, and how would you vet a lender if you were looking to have one of those relationships? Well,
my one who I work with regularly, he kind of fell into my lap from a referral. It was an agent from California, and her daughter was moving to the area. And she said, okay, here's the client, but if you take this on, you have to use my lender. And I was like, okay, that's very weird and specific, but sure, whatever. And that just kind of fell into my lap. It was a really good connection. He was out in state college and ended up moving back to the area. I sold him his house.
Wow.
So that's been really good. The other one was just he worked in my then office and just went through that way. But, I've worked with a bunch of different lenders over time, and it's just, part of it's just kind of the personality. Like, I need to feel like, they respect me, I respect them, and ideally we have fun too. But just that they're responsive with clients, that they pick up the phone, that they don't get mad at clients. I weirdly had one who got mad at the client. That was just not appropriate.
I've seen that.
Yeah.
That's not a good thing.
No, and just that they meet deadlines, I mean, I never worry with the one who left the industry, and with my one that I've used for many years as well, that they're going to miss a deadline or let something slip. Whereas I've worked with a big bank who I will not name, and notoriously they have missed a deadline every time that I've been forced to work with them.
I wonder if I know who that one is.
Yeah, you could probably figure it out.
Yep. What are how important is communication, schedule, and like what do you expect your communication to be, availability to be of a lender, like a good lender?
Sure. I mean, my lender I have, just because we're at this point friends as well as colleagues, like I know 99% of the time he's going to pick up the call unless he's with his family, which I understand and I respect. I mean, he has a small child, then you should take care of them. My other lender, who I'm so sad is leaving, I could call him any time of day and he'd pick up. And I'm not saying that that's the level of service that I need, but it did spoil me, is how I'll put it. But, I had one lender a few years back who was out of state, which I always get nervous with those. And it took me 3 days to get a call back from him. And it wasn't anything weird. Nobody was in the hospital. Nobody died. It was just, I've been swamped, and it was important. It was an appraisal deadline that we had to hit. So
And how long ago was this?
maybe 3-4 years ago.
Oh, so not quite during the craziness, because that would have been even more absurd.
I think this is, I guess my math is off. This is 2019, if I remember right. So
Okay.
just slightly before.
What advice could you give to an agent right now that's struggling to get business, or somebody just getting into the business, how to go after new clients?
I mean, I just hit my sphere really hard. I know everyone says that, but just making sure people knew I was in real estate. I never wanted someone after the fact to say, oh, I didn't know you were an agent, So having a social media presence, once again, like I'm surprisingly introverted, even though I'm quite chatty. So that kind of was a mental hurdle I had to get through, but it is helpful. Sending postcards, that's been really helpful for me too.
You actually do well with postcards?
I do. I think it's because mine look a little different though. I've gotten compliments on them before, but they're consistent. I've been using the same design for 4 years now, maybe. So people know they're from me. But I mean, if you can't do it, you can't do it. But mine don't look like the Compass or previously the Berkshire ones. They look a little different. So I think that's been helpful. And I send cards out to clients, just happy birthday, all those old school things, because I find people don't always do them at this point. So it's
no,
special.
I think people have gotten away from certain things, but
yeah, I mean, I know there's a big push towards digital, but I think having something you can hold in your hands isn't a bad thing at all.
No, for sure. We're big on digital, but I think that's because we just, like with clients we work with, like a lot of they spend ungodly amounts of money, and maybe they're not doing it right. We don't actually send postcards for people, but we've had success in actually running the social media ads and whatnot. But there's more that I'm like the proponent of, like, if money's not an object, do everything, but you have to pick what works for you.
Sure.
Moving on, what's it like working on the main line?
What's it like?
Like, meaning, like, you're dealing with, I don't know, I think that the people are different, not in a bad way, but I think it's like almost, especially when you get into bigger properties, you're dealing with, I don't know, maybe different expectations. Like, so what is it like dealing with, so maybe not main line, maybe like the higher end properties on the main line?
Sure.
Like, what do you find in clients that do they expect a different level of service? Is it?
I think my thing is I just try to bring that level of service to everyone, so I don't feel like there's a difference in what I provide, other than in a higher price point. Oftentimes the showings are agent accompanied as a listing agent. So, I had that farm listing back in the summer in Berwyn over on Sugartown. So that property was huge. It was, I think, 5 buildings, and my colleague and I, Anita, my teammate, we would just make sure at least one of us is there, ideally 2, just because there was a lot of property to keep track of, a lot of buildings, a lot of info, and just making sure everyone stayed in the group. But even on smaller properties, not that they're necessarily smaller, but not a 8-acre 5-building farm in Berwyn. But we did another one over in Wayne recently. And, it's a really beautifully redone mid-century modern property, and just, it's over $1 million. And oftentimes the expectation in that price point is just that you're going to go in, you're going to have the agent accompany all the showings. We do custom marketing materials because I have a background in that. So we have brochures, flyers, we always make sure that the feedback goes to the people right away, and the showing schedule every day. But that's the same kind of thing I try to do for my listings at different price points as well. Not necessarily the agent accompany, just because I think it's not expected, and it kind of can feel feel a little tight when you have another party.
Yeah.
But in these bigger, especially older homes or homes where a lot of upgrades have been done, it can be helpful to be there just to answer questions or to explain some of the special features. So I think that's a part of it with the higher price point, as well as just security and peace of mind as well.
Yeah. Do you feel like there's like in representing a higher end property, do you feel like there is a need to really know the property more so than just say, I'm selling this townhouse, it's a townhouse. But like when you're dealing with them, do you have to study these properties a little bit more before you list them?
Sure. I mean, I always want to be educated and able to answer questions on any property. And with anyone I work with, if there's an answer I don't know, I'd always rather say, let me check with the seller and get back to you, just because it's more important to give them correct information than to give them information immediately, I think. But, we go through, we kind of know the questions people are going to ask for the most part. It's when you get into very specifics about really, really end user specific needs that they might have. That's when it gets a little more, we might have to get back to you, check with the seller or check even with the township or things like that.
Okay. You just sold a pretty unique one, the one in Gladwin.
Oh yeah, that house was so beautiful. It was so cute.
It was very cool. What was, were there any challenges in selling such a specifically designed home?
Sure. I mean, I think the outside was just so charming that really brought a lot of people in. But the inside, I mean, for background, the seller had a background in interior design and just had really cool taste. And some of it was a bit maximalist. I mean, I'm sure he has a specific term he would use for it that would be much more honed in than the one I'm using. But I think people, for the most part, actually really liked the decor. I got a lot of people inquiring if they would do his house or if he would do their house, excuse me.
Really?
Yeah, but he was moving to California, so that was not in the cards. But I think people were just refreshed to see something new and outside of the grays and whites that we see everywhere in the mid-century modern. So even though it was a bit taste specific, I don't even want to use that term because it was really well done and so much of it. But, it's not the low-rise sofa that's velvet with the... What other things, like the Sputnik lamp? It wasn't that at all.
Sputnik lamp.
The ones with the bulbs and everything. I'm seeing less of them now, but in 2019 they were everywhere. And no agreeable gray in sight. I mean, he did
that color
wallpaper. He did this really beautiful dark teal in the hallway. That's actually the color I meant my house to be, but there was a miscommunication. But it was really well done. And even though it wasn't everyone's taste, I think it was just so beautifully done that many people liked it. The layout was a little different there. Just it really needed a family or a buyer who could make that work because it looked like a Cape Cod on the outside, but inside all the bedrooms were actually upstairs. And there were 3 in the main area. And then off of the primary suite, I actually thought it was really cool. There was a dressing room kind of hallway, you might remember. And then off of that, there was what was formerly an au pair suite, we think.
Yes. Yeah, I remember. Yep.
But it didn't quite have a closet in the traditional sense. It did have outside access. So we were calling it more of a bonus space, for, an office or a guest suite. It could be as well. It had its own bathroom, full bath. But I think just because it wasn't a 4-bedroom in an area where a lot of times people are looking for that, that limited the pool of buyers as well. But, the family who got it, they just loved it. They came back, I think, 3 or 4 times and just worked for them.
Yeah. Yeah, you've given me some cool ones. What was that one that, I forget where it was. Maybe Berwyn, but I could be wrong.
The farm?
No. That one was neat too. But the one that was really grand from the front. It was...
Bryn Mawr.
Maybe. Big. It was kind of white in the front.
That's Bryn Mawr.
Yeah, that house was beautiful.
Oh, yeah. And she had such lovely taste. And that's, my teammate said it best. She said one of the prettiest houses on one of the prettiest streets in Bryn Mawr. And I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. And these properties we're talking about, you were talking about starting with these condos and you've represented some of the nicest properties I've gotten to shoot in the past couple years. And I think it's, you're super professional with these people and you know what you're talking about. It's not like I feel like your progression is a result of what you're doing and not you getting lucky and falling into this stuff because you do know what you're talking about. Obviously you surrounded yourself with good people. You have the background, and talk a little bit about now, Anita, and what that, what it's like having a partner.
Sure. Honestly, we always say it's more fun to do this business together. So that's been just a nice emotional benefit of it as well. But I think we've just been in different stages of our careers, and it's been a really good marriage in that way. And that I'm very much in the ramp up phase, and she's in a phase where she wants to be able to go see her grandson, who's so cute, for a weekend up in the Poconos. But I don't she's been saying she'll retire for years now. I don't think she ever will, and I don't want her to.
She's in real estate. Come on.
No. And what else? I mean, she has a network that she's built with 30 years in the business, and it's been very, very generous. But also, I don't think she's doing it out of the goodness of her heart at this point. It's to her advantage because she can keep those freedoms that she's wanted to have as she moves into the new stage of life, and know that her people are in good hands. And over time, they're becoming our people, which is great.
You enjoy the business more with a partner than you were doing it on your own.
Yeah, I mean, I still do the majority of my sales on my own, which is fine. I mean, I'll call Anita just to have a fun chat about some of those people. But for her clients, we team up. And then for my clients, I'm on my own. So we have a kind of a unique partnership structure in that it's
That's good.
for her things, it's a partnership. And for mine, it's just me. But, I think we're looking to expand in the next year or so, maybe add another person on, get me 7 years ago in the door. So
there you go. That's awesome. So let me ask you this. So you moved brokerages. We don't have to get into like specifics about previous or the current brokerage,
Sure.
but what do you look for in a brokerage as far as, being able to support your business and things like that?
Sure. I mean, I've always enjoyed the people. That's been a nice perk. I miss many people from my previous office. I wish everyone were, all at the same place. But I think for me at this point, I just look for resources that can help me become more efficient. I'm kind of a work from home girl at this point. I used to be in the office every day, and I still go sometimes to socialize my dog, Ted, because that's helpful for him. But just something that can help me run as smoothly as possible. I've really enjoyed having a transaction coordinator that office, my new office, provides. That's been really great. All my apps talk to each other, which has been really good. And I would need that kind of level of technology for anywhere I was at this point because it really it works for me.
Yeah.
But,
And so technology and efficiency is one thing you're really looking for.
For sure. Just anything that can make it so I can spend more time with my clients and less time behind the scenes, even though there's definitely a piece to that kind of work. It's like crocheting, which I also like quite a bit. But, if crocheting doesn't make me money, so neither does sitting in the background doing my paperwork. It does, but not in the same way as getting out and meeting more people.
That's the bane of my existence is paperwork. Let's talk a little bit about, so you said you have an investment property.
Yes.
So tell us about that, why you decided to do it, how it went acquiring the property, and then what you did. Because I had the pleasure of seeing what you did. And very nice.
Thank you. Well, as I said before, I grew up with that kind of thing around me. My parents my mother specifically, my father, I think, just really enjoys being around it. But my mother has investment properties out in the Royersford, Spring City area. So I grew up with those, and she did flips in Lansdowne, Conshohocken, and I think it was East Norriton. So I grew up around that. I didn't feel like I was jumping in on my own. And to those who do without any kind of background and just head first, I mean, I applaud you. I feel like I don't know if I would have without my family history. Or maybe if I did, it would have been something that was a bit more conventional. My house is built in the 1890s. It's a block off of Bridge Street in downtown Phoenixville. And it needed everything. I didn't really think that it would when I got in there at first. I thought it just would be, I'm going to paint, new kitchen, new bath. And then suddenly all my walls were taken down quite literally. And, let's move this one. Let's redo this. Let's put in a new bathroom. Let's just put in AC. Let's do exterior work. Let's do a patio. I don't think there's a single thing I haven't done except maybe part of the roof, which I'm sure at some point I will. But very much no stone unturned. And I feel like I learned a lot. And it was a place where I actually lived on the first floor unit for a while. It's a duplex. So it was kind of nice to reap the rewards myself for a while. But now it's fully an investment property. I've had tenants in there. They've been great for a while. And just it's been very helpful too in terms of my real estate business outside of the investment property because I really found great contractors I can refer out to. And just I feel much more confident in my own understanding of what a renovation is going to look like since I basically took this thing down to the studs. Well, it was quite literally down to the studs and rebuilt it back. And the joys of zoning and permits, which are not fun.
Geez. Those are always fun. so this place, so I have another client who does a lot of rental properties, like some projects that are actually in Phoenixville as well. And a lot of them are, and just kind of anywhere, a lot of apartments are kind of apartments, but yours there was some cool design features and the layout changes that you made. And then, I don't know, I was like, this place is awesome. You did, and you had them staged, right, when we shot them? Or was that just
That was just leftover furniture. I had been in the process of moving out, and all my furniture at the time, it was so bad. It was during the pandemic when everything was backed out like a year. So we just ended up getting quick and dirty furniture from Amazon and then getting like proper furniture later.
But it looked great.
Yeah, I mean, that was our quick and dirty Amazon furniture.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, I mean, we found some cool things. We found some antique pocket doors that had been hidden behind a wall for like 50 plus years.
I know, that
That's
was one
my
of the
favorite.
cool features. Yeah. What would you have done different if you could do it again, since that was your first one?
I may have further explored central AC on the second and third floor, but that's me being nitpicky. Just because I think in the end the cost was a wash because of some issues. But that's very, very specific. I don't know if I would have done anything else differently. And even that, I understand the reasons why I did it. It can be really tough to do third and second floor. But once the walls were all out, it probably could have been more doable. I think I know now more things to check for. I think I may have started with the basement a bit earlier. Luckily, I didn't get hit too hard with flooding, but I did ultimately have to do that. And I've definitely learned, and I knew this going in, that budgets can be estimates sometimes.
Budgets are made to be broken, right?
Than budgets, but I don't regret a thing. It's a beautiful place, and I'm really happy with it. And as I've said before, I'm like, I'm never selling it. Either it's going underwater or it's going to the next generation.
It might. No.
Well, I do flood insurance, even though I don't have to. I'm overcautious.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not right next to the water, but you never know.
There was that big Hurricane Ida, and it was like Noah in the Red Sea, or who, I don't know, Bible stuff, whoever in the Red Sea, where Moses, there we go. There's years of that where I should know that. My street, the 200 block was not flooded, but the 100 and the 300 totally were. So yeah, I think I got flood insurance like the next day.
There were places that didn't require flood insurance that never thought they would run into that, and they got nailed.
Yep. So I just, I pay my bill every year and just hope that I never need to use it.
And you're still doing well on the property, even with adding and everything. So
I still make a profit every month, and it's really a nice one. So
total success. So that's good. Do you work with people looking to do that, helping them find properties?
Yes. Luckily, I haven't had one who's looked at something as intimidating as mine in some time. But I work with a lot of investor clients as well. I think it's helped that I have a background in it personally, as well as just, being a realtor. I have my properties. I grew up with it. I have a lender who's really great at running numbers, but I also have a quick and dirty spreadsheet I use too. So we usually have a pretty good idea of what it'll rent for, and sometimes I'll rent it out for them as well.
Do you find more people are looking to get into owning investment properties these days, or is it just kind of about the same since you've been in the business?
I felt like there was a real influx right around 2020-ish, like during the pandemic, and immediately, I don't even want to say after, but maybe 2021, early 2022, I was getting so many calls about that. I feel like it's calmed down now, what with rates and everything, but for a while there, I think everyone was just realizing, I should get on the equity ladder and maybe get a little side hustle or something like that.
It seems to be becoming more prevalent, and especially through other people we're talking to. But that's very cool. Do you have any projects in the works? Like, are you looking to take on another one right now, or?
If something came on, I wouldn't be opposed to it, but.
So you're just passively kind of keeping your eye open?
Yeah, I think I'm looking for more of a forever home proper for myself at this point. So that's kind of the focus.
Very nice. What does Giselle's forever home look like?
Oh gosh. Well, it's either going to be a forever home or a 5-year. It just depends on what comes on where. But obviously, most important is it needs to have a yard for Ted.
Oh.
I mean, I joked that I bought Phoenixville for Ted so he could have his yard, and he had a very nice yard, but he needs one again. So working on that, and just, it's going to be.
So he gets final sign off?
Oh, yeah. He's the decider. We all know that.
We'll see if we have a picture of Ted somewhere we can pop up.
I can send you. I have hundreds. You took some of him.
Yeah, a couple. I think I have a couple of them. What are some things that either goals you have going into this spring market for the year, or just some things in general you're looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to, I'm always looking forward to the spring. It's great for my buyers. I think they never believe me when it's wintertime and I'm saying, like, look, I know you're starting now and you're starting early and maybe we'll get something, but it's going to be different in spring. And the world is crazy. Things could change on a dime, of course. But I have these clients from California and they were so refreshed that over the last week, they had so much more to look at, whereas before it just felt like crickets. So
yeah,
for my buyers, I'm looking forward to that. And for my sellers, I'm looking forward to, still a good amount of attention. People are always going to want to move. There's always job changes, life changes, things like that. So it's always exciting when spring comes around the corner, though I know by the time fall rolls around, I'll be so excited to have a little bit of downtime again.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Now, for a buyer that's about to jump into the market, if you had one piece of advice for them, what would it be?
Get pre-approved. You'd be surprised how many people I have roll up and they love a house and they don't have a pre-approval. And because they're not working with a lender who can do it ASAP, they can't get it. I know it's very basic advice and a lot of realtors will say it, but either get in touch with a lender or get in touch with an agent who will get you in touch with a lender. It's not
it's the first step.
If you're getting a pre-approval in 3 minutes and you haven't spoken with a person on the phone, it's probably not one that an agent's going to be excited about receiving.
That's interesting to know.
I can't guarantee it for all of them. And I had a lender who could do that for me, but I was on the phone with him. I knew he wasn't just a system that wouldn't fully calculate things and would send me an appraiser from Maryland who didn't know the property and was using comps that were 3 years old, which I don't even think is allowed, but that happened. So
yeah, that would have to be.
Yeah, that was not fun.
Doesn't make any sense.
Those people did ultimately get the house once they switched to a local lender, as was recommended to them from the start.
So for buyers, get pre-approved, and you're right. It is something that some people just brush over, but definitely can be the difference between whether they're happy about getting it or not getting it. But
it can even just be the difference between whether they get it.
Right. Yeah. For sellers that maybe already decided they want to jump into the market right now or are milling it around, I think in most cases, at least around where we are, they're going to do decent. But if there was one thing or a couple things that you would say, like, this is something you should do prior to putting your home on the market, what would it be?
Sure. You certainly want to talk to an agent early, and that's true of a buyer as well. I've had buyers talk to me 3 years before they're ready to go, and just sometimes they get in touch with a lender, they get some homework, shall we say, things to improve their credit, where they should be putting their money, et cetera. But for sellers, sometimes people are saying, I'm thinking of taking out this furniture so it's totally bare. And I'm saying, no, actually, please save your couch and the table, even if you declutter, like keep these things in. So there could be things like that can help. Whether or not we're going to paint, just getting involved early can be helpful. We can figure out the best timing. They're thinking, I want to sell tomorrow, and maybe it's worth it more to wait 2 weeks or so, wait a month or so. So I think just getting in touch with an agent and having them come through the home, even if you think, this is 6 months down the line for me, just because there might be things you could do now or start to do that could make it a little less like melee crazy. I always try to avoid the last minute rush. We can do it, and I've done it many times, but if we can do things a bit more mindfully, I find it's less stressful, and people go into it, they feel much more secure in their decisions. Yeah.
No, I think that's good advice. So getting in touch with an agent first, because whether they need to tell you to do A, B, or C, like, I guess would you say that because each property is its own thing, that having the agent with the experience to kind of say, hey, while this may apply to most people, maybe it's not where you need to be putting your attention.
Exactly. Like, they might think that maybe they need to redo something completely. And I might say, you know what, in terms of how much money that's going to net you doing that work versus leaving it,
it's not worth
don't touch it. So it's not necessarily like that the agent's going to tell you, go spend all this money. They might tell you, hey, don't spend this money. So really, it's just to a person's advantage, I think, to just get that advice and insight as soon as possible so they can make sure they're not unnecessarily spending, or if they're spending in the place where they're going to see the best return.
Awesome. With all of technology and everything, all the information available to the consumer right now,
sure,
where do you think the agents have the most value? If there was one area of what you do that you could point to where you bring value they're not going to be able to get from just reading an article or something on Zillow.
Sure. I mean, really, I feel like it's multifaceted. It's really just having someone who does it every day alongside you. I mean, you can look at Zillow, you can see the numbers, you can probably run even some quick and dirty comps yourself. I know my mother used to do that back in the day. But I think, especially if you're a first-time home buyer, you're not a seasoned investor, just having someone to go through with you to explain the results of a home inspection alongside the inspector so they're not so scary. Someone who's going to know how to advise you, how to negotiate so that, you're not asking for every little nitpicky thing and getting the seller all annoyed and the deal implodes because of emotions. That's another half of it. And just, opening your eyes to options that you might not have thought of, like people who, I had these people and I'm so happy for them. They often make me just feel so good. They were looking at very tiny row homes, and I knew where they wanted to be and they didn't think they could afford that, but we ended up getting them into a single family home in the Haverford School District, which they never thought they could do. And that thing, they bought it, I think in 2021, and their equity shot through the roof. And it's really cute. Now they have a little boy and I like to see pictures of him that they post of him in the yard. They actually got married at the house. It was really cute. I was at the wedding. So I think it just was, it was so different from their expectations, I think, that it just was lovely. And I don't think that Zillow would have necessarily guided them towards that as a possibility for themselves.
You're good at this, aren't you?
It's like it's my job.
Okay. So just quickly, we're coming towards the end. The social media, what is it doing for you?
Well, I very dearly miss my my assistant who was a bit more on top of it as Gen Z. But I think it's just been a good way to stay in touch with clients. I mean, even if I'm not as diligent in posting as I once was when I had Nicole, who I miss every day. I think just still following up with clients, seeing things in their life. Like I saw a client got a dog recently. I sent her a little dog care package because I'm very keenly aware of what dogs need. Same thing for clients who just had a baby, clients who just got married. But I mean, even more than that, I talk about my business. I talk about things I see on the road. I try to post videos of that. But even though I'm just posting my sale, I think just being front of mind. It's always funny when I hear from a client who I had no idea was seeing these things. Oh, Giselle, the house you sold in Wayne was beautiful. So just staying on top of mind. I do a newsletter, and that actually has also been really helpful. It's like an email one.
Okay.
And I get a lot of people opening that, and they seem to actually click on quite a few of the links and read through it. And I think that's been nice too. It's a bit more personal than your standard one because I fill it all in myself with
okay,
a little letter and all that jazz.
Very good. So talk a little bit about, you don't have to give your secrets away, but what are you doing? What does a newsletter contain for you?
Sure. It's not that big of a secret. I think part of what makes it different is just that it's mine. But, I have a little letter at the start of it. I have houses I've sold. I have blog posts. Usually I try to use ones for my website because I have some on there, though. I have to get back to that. But
make a note.
I will make a note. I have lots of notes. But anywho, it's just been so busy with clients lately being on the road. But what else? I think people just like that I throw in some information about my own life, because I really get to know my clients. A lot of them become friends as well as clients, which has been wonderful. And I know people really like that the last thing in the newsletter is called Ted's Corner, and it always has a picture of my dog and what he's up to. So
money. Yes. Absolutely.
Honestly, maybe that might be my advice for a new agent. I met with one recently and she's like, what's the number one thing I can do? I'm like, do you have a pet and can you get one? Ted's on the website a lot, and I've had multiple people say they went with me just because they thought I had a really cute dog. So
we have our dog on our stuff too.
I love your dog.
Yes. Yeah. And the amount of times people mention it is crazy. So get a pet. Did you ever have experience with the sending the generic drip emails?
No.
You never did that?
I find that to be spam. I know some people just say, oh, I need to be in contact, I need to be in contact, I need to be in contact. But I know I hate those things. I don't open them. I never want to send something that looks like I just pressed a button to send it out. I always want people to know that it's either from me, or back when I had Nicole, it was from Nicole, who knew what I liked, and that was nice. Great. But
now, how frequently are you sending them?
My newsletter? Every other month or so.
Okay, so it's not crazy.
No. I mean, if I'm being nice to myself, I could say seasonally, but I aim for every other month. It used to be monthly when I first started, but I've just gotten busier.
That's good. Well, it's a good problem to have. Okay. Mm-hmm. So the last thing that we usually ask people to do. So what's a positive message you would give to the world?
Just the world?
Anything. Doesn't have to be real estate related.
I saw a bumper sticker recently that I really liked. Well, I did. And it said, what if everything goes right? And I just thought that was really nice because I'm a bit of a worrier. And it was very soothing for me, this bumper sticker. So I'll pass that along. Just what if everything goes right instead of wrong? So it's been a nice mindset I've tried to take from this stupid little bumper sticker I saw last week.
I like that. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, are you going to get it and put it on your car?
I already have a Sell with Giselle bumper sticker on my car. I don't need any more.
Oh, man. Well, that's it.
Very cool.
Thank you, Giselle.
Thank you, Brian.